Hello, grade 10 students. In this session, we're going to continue with our chapter about the green plants for semester 3, week 32. Transpiration. What is transpiration? Transpiration is the process that is linked to the water, to the opening or to the closure of the stomata. So what is transpiration? First of all, you have to know that the water is absorbed at the level of the roots. The water travels up through the plant, through the stem, and then to the leaves. So whenever the water reaches the leaves, water vapor is lost from the leaf pores in the process of transpiration. What are these leaf pores? These leaf pores, they are small opening. They can't be seen by the naked eye, but they are found on the underside of the leaf. They are called stomata. So through transpiration, the water is lost through the leaves. It's called transpiration. So transpiration is always linked to the opening of the stomata. When the stomata they are open, we have transpiration and high transpiration rates. So transpiration is a green plant. What is transpiration? Transpiration is the loss of water vapor through some plant organs. Which organs? Let's see. We have two plants A and B. Plant A containing leaves, and plant B it lacks the leaves. Plant A and B, both of them they are covered with a plastic bag. However, plant A that has leaves, it has water droplets on the inner wall of the plastic bag. So we have release of water. While plant B that lacks the leaf, it has no water droplets. So water droplets and the formation of water droplets is related to the presence of the leaves. So transpiration is the process that where the plant releases or loses water in the form of water vapor at the level of the leaves. So the major difference between the two plants A and B, that plant A has leaves while plant B it doesn't. Which plastic bag is water vapor formed in plastic bag covering the plant A that contain the leaves. Which part of the plant is responsible for transpiration? It's the leaves. So through transpiration, the green plants, what do they release? They release water vapor through their leaves. Now you have to keep in mind these notes. These notes that autotrophs, there are the green plants and also they are the chlorophyll plants, meaning that they contain the chlorophyll. However, the non-green plant, they are the non-chlorophyll plant, they are the heterotroph that lacks the green pigment, which is the chlorophyll. Moving now to the most important part of our lesson, which is about photosynthesis. Photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the process that takes place during day, meaning that in the presence of sunlight. So sunlight is important for the process of photosynthesis. So that photosynthesis it can't occur unless in the presence of the sunlight, where the photosynthesis process it needs the energy from the sunlight to perform the process or this process to occur. How do the process occur? What are the reactants in this reaction as well as the products? How can we identify that the plant is undergoing photosynthesis or it can do a photosynthesis? Before we start, let's ask ourselves a question. If you want to eat, what do you do? Either you eat food, you cook food, or you order. So what about the plants? Do they order food or do they cook food? Let's see. Photosynthesis is the process by which the chlorophyllic plants. What the meaning of chlorophyllic plants? Meaning that the plant that contain the chlorophyll. Meaning that the green plants, the autotrophs. So the green plants, they undergo the process of photosynthesis. What do they do in photosynthesis? Photosynthesis is the process where the green plants they can produce their organic matter. And we are going to talk about the organic matter. What do you mean by the organic? If you remember in grade 9, organic matter, we have carbohydrates, we have lipids, and we have the proteins. One kind of the carbohydrates, we have polysaccharides, disaccharides, and monosaccharides. If you remember in grade 9, we talk about the carbohydrates, we have the complex forms called the polysaccharides, we have the starch in plants, if you remember this. So here, this is the organic matter. It produces its organic matter from where? From inorganic one. From inorganic, meaning that from mineral salts and using the water as well. So what happens during photosynthesis? Let's see this experiment. This experiment, we have two plants, plant A and plant B. Plant A and plant B, one of them is placed in the presence of sunlight, which is plant A, and the other is placed in plant B in the darkness. Second step, what did we do? We boil one leaf from each plant. So we got a plant from plant A, which is placed in light, and plant B, which was placed in darkness. And here, as a note before we continue, we said that the photosynthesis, it occurs during the day, so it needs the sunlight. So here we boil one leaf from each plant for a few minutes. Boiling the water, boiling water, it kills the leaf, it kills the component of the leaf. It leads to the death of the leaf. This is the process of boiling water. Step number 3, what did we do? We dip each leaf in a tube of warm alcohol. Warm alcohol, it's used to remove the green color of the leaf. So whenever we use warm alcohol, this is used to remove the green color of the leaf, and then we dip them in a tube of warm alcohol, but we keep them in boiling water. So we have boiling water and warm alcohol. So here we kill the leaf by boiling water. Second step, we remove the green color of the leaf by warm alcohol. Then we soften the leaves by dipping them in water in order to be straight, in order not to be, for example, in a good shape. We dip them in water for a few minutes, and then we go to the iodine test, iodine solution test. Iodine test, as you know, is done to test the presence of starch. So it's done to test the presence of the starch. When the iodine solution is added, here they said blue black, or you can say instead of blue black, you can say dark blue color. Dark blue color is obtained. So whenever we have iodine solution, we have dark blue color is obtained. So we have dark blue. This means that we have starch. So whenever we have starch, so the plant is undergoing the process of photosynthesis. So the plant in sunlight, it gives dark blue. However, in the absence of sunlight, no dark blue, since we don't have sunlight. Let's see what happens. The plant, it makes its own food by the process of photosynthesis. We said that photo, it means light. Synthesis, meaning putting something together. So it puts something together in the presence of light. So what does the plant put? Let's see. Photosynthesis, it occurs at the level of the plant's leaves. You have to know that in the presence of life, the photosynthesis can occur. Why? We said that photosynthesis it occurs only for the green plants. Green plants, meaning that the chlorophyll plants, meaning that the plant that contain the chlorophyll. So the chlorophyll has an important role. It traps the energy from the light. It gets the energy from the light. This energy is needed to the synthesis, to putting two components together. These components, they are carbon dioxide, CO2, and water, in order to make the sugar, which is the food for the plant. So wait a minute. We said that chlorophyll, is needed. The chlorophyll it traps the energy from light. So this will help to combine carbon dioxide with water. So carbon dioxide and water, they are called the reactants in the reaction. So they react with each other to give sugar. Wait a minute, Mister, you said a few seconds ago that it produces starch. Now you said that it produces sugar. Yes, it produces sugar, but it's stored in the form of starch. So the plant will store the sugar in the form of starch. So here, the concept here. Moving now to the photosynthesis process and the steps. In the photosynthesis, what happened? Photosynthesis, the light trapped by the chlorophyll. So that we said that the chlorophyll trapped the light. The chlorophyll is the pigment that makes the plants green. Then the energy from the sunlight, it starts the food making process. So what will happen? The plant or the leaves of the plant, they need CO2. So they take in carbon dioxide, CO2 from the air. And also the roots absorb water from the soil. So we have water. So these two, they are called the reactants in the reaction of the photosynthesis. So they are called reactants. So then the leaf will use the energy from the light to put together, what the meaning of to put together, to add carbon dioxide and water in order to make the food, which is the kind of sugar. But pay attention. This reaction, carbon dioxide plus water, it won't occur if we don't have light. No light, no photosynthesis reaction. Then, step number 5, oxygen is considered as a waste product during photosynthesis. The plant will release oxygen. It doesn't need the oxygen during photosynthesis. So it's given off by the leaves out to the air. That's why during day, the plant they release oxygen, they give us O2. While during night, the concept of the process is the opposite. While photosynthesis, it takes place only, as I said, during day, during the sunlight, in the presence of sunlight. The sugar, as I said, is turned out into starch, which is stored for later use. When the plant is hungry, it can use this starch in order to feed on. So this is the process of photosynthesis. Here we have a plant leaf. This leaf was covered partially by a black cover. This is the black cover. It was covered by a black cover, and it's left for in sunlight for 2 hours. Then it's tested for starch. After 2 hours, we used iodine test to test for the starch. So from now on, whenever we talk about starch testing, this is an iodine test. So here, sunlight, it can't reach this region because it's covered by the black cover. So we did iodine test. Dark blue color is obtained in the uncovered regions, while in this region that was covered by the black paper or the black cover is not dark blue. So this means that starch is produced in these regions while it's not produced in the yellow one. Why? Because there is no light reaching this part, so no production of the starch. So photosynthesis, and you have to study this equation, is expressed in this word equation. Carbon dioxide plus water in the presence of light energy. So these are called the reactants, and these are called the products. Sugar plus oxygen. They are called the products. So if you write the products, if you write this reaction without adding light energy here over the arrow, this means that the equation is wrong. So light energy is important. If you didn't put the light energy, meaning that your equation or your answer is incorrect. Let's move now to talk about NOPS solution. NOPS solution is a liquid which contains all the minerals needed for the normal growth of the plant. Like for example,
the NPK. This is the NPK. NPK is example about NOP solution, which contains minerals needed for the growth of green plants. This NPK, as the names N for nitrogen, P for phosphorus, and K for potassium. Maybe in the quiz, I'm going to ask you what does the term NPK codes for. So you have to say N for nitrogen, P for phosphorus, and K for potassium. ما فيك تقلي nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus. You have to specify that N for the nitrogen, K for potassium, and P for phosphorus. Heterotrophs, like the fungi, they cannot grow in a mineral medium. They need organic substances like sugar in order to grow. So, what will happen for this? The growth of the fungus, you have to know it increases in the presence of sugars and minerals. This because whenever we have sugar and we have minerals, the growth of the fungus will increase since they feed on these sugars and these minerals. You have to know that very low and very high temperature it inactivates the growth of fungi. What the meaning of inactivate stops the growth of the fungi, while the optimum temperature for the growth of the fungi is the room temperature, which is about 20 to 25 degrees Celsius. What the meaning of optimum temperature is the best temperature needed, while light does not affect the growth of fungus. What is a photometer? Photometer is an apparatus or an instrument. It's used to measure the quantity of the absorbed water by the plants, and to be more specific, by the roots of the plant. So this is the photometer. It's an instrument used to measure, or apparatus used to measure the amount of water absorbed by the roots of the plant. It's called photometer. So you have to know only what is the function of the photometer, and we don't have to know what is the mechanism, how does it work. Root absorption by mycorrhizae. What is the mycorrhizae? Mycorrhizae is the term used to term the symbiotic relationship between the fungi and the plant's root system. Symbiotic relationship. What does this mean? For example, Fatima and Celia, they are sitting beside each other in class. Fatima, it uses a pen from Celia. In return, Celia uses a ruler from Fatima. So they have a relationship and they benefit from each other. Symbiotic relationship is a beneficial relationship between two members where each of them it benefits, they benefit from the other. This is called the mycorrhiza. This is the symbiotic relationship. This is a beneficial relationship between a fungus and a plant. So mycorrhiza, it's a symbiotic association. So whenever we said mycorrhiza, we are talking about symbiotic association or symbiotic relationship. It's a relationship that is with benefits between a fungus and a plant. So here, whenever we have a mycorrhiza, the length of the plant will increase, as well as the roots will be more intense and more complicated. Whenever in the absence of mycorrhiza, there is development, but not as much as that in the presence of the mycorrhiza. So the length of the ash trees here in the presence of the mycorrhiza is much greater. If you look at the figure, the length is much greater than that in the absence. So mycorrhiza is beneficial for the growth, and in this experiment or in this figure is beneficial for the length of the green plant. So mycorrhiza is beneficial for the growth of the green plants. Now I'm going to move to talk about the crude sap. What is the crude sap? Crude sap is the mixture or the solution that contains water and mineral, and to be more specific, mineral ions like potassium, phosphorus, sodium, magnesium, nitrogen, and others. So these are taken by the roots of the plant. From where? From the soil. This sap or this solution, it moves from the roots in an upward motion, in an upward direction, from the roots to the stem to the leaves. It moves upward. This solution is classified as the crude sap that contains water and minerals. The crude sap has a special driver or a special taxi. This taxi is called a conducting tissue. It's called a conducting tissue or conducting vessels. This vessel is called the xylem. So xylem is the one that transports the crude sap, is the driver for the crude sap. It's found in the roots, the stem, and the leaves, and is composed mainly of vessels. That's why they call conducting vessels, because it's composed mainly of vessels. The one that conducts or that transports the crude sap is known as the xylem. So xylem is the conducting vessel that transports the crude sap from the roots to the stem and then to the leaves. The crude sap, as I said, has an ascending transport. What the meaning of ascending? It has an upward transport from the roots up to the stem and to the leaves of the plant. Last idea or last note, what are the factors that affect transpiration? Light is one of the factors that affect transpiration. Light, it favors the opening of the stomata. Favors meaning that it facilitates or provokes the opening of the stomata, and it leads to the vaporization of the transpired water. So it favors the opening of the stomata, leading to more transpiration. Temperature. Temperature increases and the transpiration as well will increase. So transpiration and temperature, they are proportional. As temperature increases, the transpiration increases. But wait a minute, up to a certain level, up to 30, 32 degrees. Above 35, the stomata will close. Why? Because above 35, this temperature is hot. So the plant will need the water. It needs the water now when the temperature is very high and the weather is hot. So it needs the water. So there is no need for transpiration so that the stomata will close. State of the soil. Humidity or the temperature of the soil is important for the process of transpiration. When the humidity or the temperature of the soil drops, it will lead to the reduce in the absorption and will lead to deficiency in water. So when the humidity رطوبة for the or the temperature of the soil reduces absorption, so the drop in the humidity or the temperature of the soil, it reduces. When the humidity decreases or the temperature decreases, it decreases the absorption, and thus we will have no more water. We will have what's known by deficiency in the water. This will lead to the closure of the stomata and to the stop of the process of transpiration. So humidity, it's a drop or the temperature drop. This will stop the absorption. So no absorption at the level of the roots. So no water. So it will lead to water deficiency, and this will lead to the stop of the transpiration process. This is everything for our session